Hi, I'm Beth. If you're new here, this channel is all about gardening with native plants, ecological gardening, gardening for wildlife, and kind of bringing as many native plants into my suburban garden as I can. I'm gardening in the upper Midwest and slowly kind of transforming my yard into a mostly native plant garden. So welcome. Today I wanted to share a quick tour of my garden. I've kind of been reluctant to do this because I feel a little embarrassed about the weed situation. But anyway, I just saw Roy Diblick share his garden, and he was talking about just having to really keep after the weeds and keep pulling them. And if he can share that on YouTube, then I guess I can too. So anyway, here's a little tour of my garden. It's not perfect, it's not all beautiful, but anyway, I hope you enjoy it. All right, so this is the path, the wood chip path that I put down in February to kind of define the space in this shade garden on the side of my house. Sorry, the AC is on. It's like 85 degrees right now, and just we really need to keep it running. So hopefully it's not too noisy. So right now everything's kind of green, and I haven't added a lot here this year. I added a lot last year, but this year the only thing I've done was define the space with this path, but I think it's coming along really nicely. These ostrich ferns, it used to be kind of wall-to-wall ostrich ferns, and no joke, I weed this wood chip mulch every single day, and there's always ostrich ferns, so they just want to take over. Last fall I added a crabapple here, which is, it almost got eaten by rabbits this winter, but I think it's making a comeback. And you can see I've got things like hostas mixed in there. I think it just makes it look like really intentional, and kind of helps people who maybe don't necessarily think of native plants as garden worthy, to show them, you know, that this is like a cared for space and just really purposeful. Here I've got some Jacob's Ladder, which I added last fall, early fall. It was really beautiful a few weeks ago. And then pretty soon I'll have things like, this is black cohosh. I've actually got a lot of that throughout here. I planted it a few years ago, but it's finally getting big enough to flower now, and it really looks incredible. This is spikenard, which kind of ends up looking like a shrub, but it's actually a perennial. I've also got some blue stem goldenrod dotted through here. These are, I think I mentioned, ostrich ferns. This is a pawpaw. I've also got one in my front yard with the hope that they can cross-pollinate and I'll get pawpaws. These are about 3 years, maybe 5 years old. So they each got one flower this year, which was like super exciting. So anyway, there's a few more plants that I added last year, like this golden pimpernel. There's downy woodmint right here, a couple of those guys. More of that black cohosh. You can see it's going to be probably a few weeks from now, it's going to be blooming. And it's got these beautiful white spikes of flowers, which are like incredible. Also in here, I seeded in this is American bellflower, tall bellflower, and it just makes these gorgeous blue spikes of flowers, and it kind of self-seeds all over the place. So basically I just kind of come in and edit anywhere I don't want them, but yeah, those are great, and those will be going kind of midsummer. So that's this shade garden, and I'm not doing much with it now, but keeping this path weeded and keeping other things weeded, like especially really aggressive weeds. Like I get a lot of creeping bellflower all in here. So really just trying to stay on top of the weeds here for now. This is a prairie 9-bark, which I planted last year. There's a lot of my yard that looks like this, where just please ignore. And part of why I didn't want to share a tour of my garden, I plan to dig this part of the lawn and put flagstone, which is also why the weed situation here, I can't really get in here because this is where I'm storing all of this flagstone. But anyway, so ignore that. And then behind here is my rain garden, which has a lot going on. Well, it's got baptisia and irises right now. And I think this time of year, the sedges just look really nice. They're like still fresh and green. They don't look tired yet. There's a ton of swamp milkweed back here, some other kinds of sedges. I've got a button bush back there. But yeah, this is more about like green infrastructure, honestly, than any kind of a beautiful garden necessarily. We had to regrade our yard when we moved in because we were getting water in our basement. So we regraded the whole yard and put this rain garden in, which is not the whole solution, but a big part of the solution to that problem. So that's actually been working really, really well. All right, and then on over to, ignore that, on over to my prairie garden, which I planted last year. So this is, I've got a video actually, I'll put the link to. These are prairie plants that like full sun, and right now it's really green, but hopefully next week I will have Penstemon digitalis blooming in here. That's these guys. You can see the buds on them. And that one too, even though it's got red leaves, it's actually the same thing. There's a lot of natural variation. All of these I grew from seed. So that one just happened to come out red. So, and that one also is about to bloom. So that's gonna be like white flowers in here. Most of the flowers that I planted here are like purples and reds and pinks, and then some white flowers as well. And then fall has, you know, kind of your fall classics like Rudbeckia fulgida right here, that kind of thing. This is mountain mint, which pollinators absolutely love. There's a few bricks kind of strewn through here because I had laid down some cardboard to kill off my lawn. So that has broken down. I can actually remove those bricks, but they're there for now. And then, oh, this is, I think it's raspberry wine monarda. And I noticed this one looks a little different. So I might accidentally have something else there. I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out when it blooms. I've also got some anise hyssop here. And then a non-native sedum of some kind. I forget the type. And then most of this, I had planned for it to be kind of like full sun, plants that can handle a little droughty conditions. However, I didn't think about the fact that I've got this downspout right here. And you can see this area that just kind of has a lot of violets, but no taller prairie plants coming up. And I think that's, they kind of died because of the downspout bringing in too much moisture. So I'm thinking I might just add in a little more swamp milkweed. I pointed that out in the rain garden, but it kind of likes to self-seed all over the yard and can actually handle like almost medium moisture soil. So I think this would be a really good place to put in some of that swamp milkweed. And then over on the other side is more of that same prairie planting. And I've got a path through there just for, you know, like access so I can weed and stuff like that. And so far, so this is year one of this planting. I planted this early fall last year. We're doing okay on weeds because I had put down just like a really thin, like 1-inch layer of bark mulch. And it's doing okay keeping out weeds so far. There's a lot of little violet seedlings, which I kind of love, and I let them do their thing because I think they do a great job of keeping the soil shaded and crowding out other weeds that I don't want. And they're also like a great, they support fritillary butterflies, so I think they're great. I do get a lot of creeping bellflower in here too. I feel like my job this year is just gonna be defeat the creeping bellflower. I just try and be more stubborn than the weeds, and I just, every time I see it, I pull it. I don't know if I'm going to win, but that is what I am doing. This right here is, I think it's prairie spiderwort. I forget the common name and the Latin name. There's also, though, some Ohio spiderwort back here. And I'm sorry, I'm filming this in the evening, so all the spiderworts have closed up. They like to kind of open in the morning, and then they're done once the day gets hot. Oh, but you can see, I think some of this penstemon is actually, oh, I got one. I have one little penstemon flower going. So yeah, by next week, that'll all be in bloom. All right, and then over here is yet another embarrassing section of my yard. I call it my weed garden. So I mowed this down about a week ago. It's just weeds. And I then aggressively seeded it with some short-lived natives like partridge pea. So like this is a little partridge pea that's coming in. There's some blue vervain, and well, the blue vervain I actually did seedlings of because it needs to be cold moist stratified. But then there's a lot of zinnias that I planted in here. So hopefully it's like half weeds and half like zinnias to distract you from the weeds. So yeah, anyways. And this is another button bush. All right, and so that's kind of the backyard. And now on to my front yard. So out front here, this is coming from the back gate, but I just planted these tall thimbleweed, anemone virginianas. They kind of self-seed all over the place, so I just kind of actually found these randomly in other spots in my yard, but this is like under an overhang, and it gets dry shade here, and they can handle that once they're established. So I just planted them. I'm hoping they can kind of take over there eventually. And then last year I planted these New Jersey tea, which so this whole kind of like foundation planting, I'm trying to make it mostly shrubs, just because the leaf litter from leaving my leaves is actually really thick, and it can smother your perennials if it's thick enough. So I want to ideally make this area just shrubs that can kind of handle that. So I planted those guys, but I think I may actually move them. I may plant red twig dogwoods here, and then these yews are looking really sad. So I'm thinking maybe the New Jersey tea can go here, and then get rid of the yews, but I don't know if I'll get to that this year. This is my other pawpaw tree here. It's kind of deformed because I tried to protect it when we got that cicada brood the other year. And then I've got a lot of things, again, like I have a lot of space and not as much time. This is a fairly new garden, so a lot of this is like the ageratum that just kind of self-seeds everywhere. The coneflowers, again, I also like just seeded in, and I kind of just let things do what they want where I'm not really focused on it. This is my oak leaf hydrangea, and what we've got in bloom here, these are Bradbury's Monarda, which I think are so pretty. I just love the blooms. And you can see like the variation, like these have no spots on them, but then right next door, these guys do. I just love kind of looking at plants up close and seeing that kind of thing. I also planted this palm sedge intermixed with them, and I think it looks terrible. It's not doing well. It doesn't like it out here. And then I had moved these peonies, so they're not blooming, but I'm not surprised because it's the first year since I moved them. And here are those boxwoods, which I pruned back pretty hard, and they're recovering really well. And that's just a weed. I just ignore that. I feel like I'm gonna say that a lot of times here. And then this is my, I don't know, I call it my front yard meadow. So it's pretty shady out here. It's facing east, and we've got these big trees, street trees. So yeah, anyways, these things all have to handle a little bit of shade. Nothing whole lot is happening right now. This side I planted last year, so you can see it's a little less mature than this side, which was planted 2 years ago, or maybe 3 now. So yeah, I think this is gonna look really spectacular this year. And again, I'm sorry, I filmed this in the evening, and the only thing really blooming right now is the Ohio spiderwort, which closes up in the evening, so sorry about that. And then I've got Coreopsis. I planted the edges with prairie smoke and the sedum, wild stonecrop. So that stays really low, and I'm hoping it will like sort of the drier conditions right next to the concrete. That was also a new addition last year. And then there's kind of a matrix going through here of like Carex rosea or sedge, and then 2 kinds of grasses. I've got little blue stem, and I've also got oh my gosh, side oats grandma. Also, I'm noticing this year, I think is going to be the first year that I really have a notable amount of pale coneflower in here. So in previous years, the rabbits had just like mowed them all the way down, and I think I got like 1 or 2. But this year, I think because the grasses are big enough to sort of protect them, the rabbits did not get to them. So I'm really excited for my pale coneflowers this year. And then I have a red twig dogwood that I planted in the middle, but I can't decide if I like that. I kind of want to move it back closer to the house, but then I like go back and forth on it, and I'm just not sure. So if you have thoughts about that, let me know. And then there's a different kind of penstemon out here that's going to be blooming soon. I think it's called tube beard tongue, and I'm really sorry I don't know offhand the Latin name for it. And we've got like a really amazing aphid situation on here. I actually love seeing this. I find it so fascinating. The ants are actually like farming them, which to me is just so cool to watch. Yeah, I could watch this for hours. I just think it's so cool. And I really don't care. There's enough plants in here. And they all kind of like, the ants kind of just like concentrated them all on one plant, and the plant next to it is like completely unaffected. So I think if you plant enough plants, and if you have enough like for all the wildlife to do its thing, you really don't notice if you just take a few steps back in your garden, and things still look great. So yeah, I love it. Somewhere in here, oh, I forgot to mention, last year I also added a bunch of tulips and daffodils, both out here and in my prairie garden. And they looked amazing a couple weeks ago. So I'll put in a picture of the tulips and daffodils out here. I think it was Ivory Floridale and dang, what kind of daffodils were they? I don't know. And also in the back, they looked amazing. Okay, and then finally, this is sort of my little woodland front door area. And I've got an American plum here, which is also very new. And then I'm trying to get a lot more sedges and hostas. I think they look really nice together. They're really nice contrast in foliage textures. And then more of these Anemone virginiana. I just think it's really nice contrast. And then I want to add other kinds of native woodland plants like Jacob's ladder and stuff like that here. But obviously a work in progress, but I mean, that's true of all gardens, right? All right, I hope you enjoyed the little tour around my garden. I want to try and make more informal videos like this, hopefully get videos out a little more often. Hopefully this will be a little bit quicker and easier for me to edit and then get up there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.